This is the second set of Earfun earphones that I'm reviewing, and it's very evident that they know exactly how to tune their products for good sound. Thank you to the folk at Earfun for making this review possible by sending me this demo unit. All thoughts and opinions are my own. So let's jump straight into how this is built. These have a very simple unboxing experience, but you get everything you need and more within the box. You get the case with the earphones in them, an accessory box with 4 different sizes of silicone ear tips in it with mediums already on the earphones, and you also get a pair of foam ear tips which you don't normally see with many brands. You also get extra differently sized winglets, a charging cable, the literature, as well as a cotton swab for cleaning the earphones or case, which I've only seen Earfun provide. Moving on to the case, it's a very executive looking case with a matte finish to it. The Earfun branding does stand out, especially when light reflects off it, thanks to it being a reflective finish. The rear of the case has the USB-C charging point, and you can also charge this up wirelessly. Upon opening the case, you'll see the earphones and notice that it has LED lights on the earbuds. They carry over the same finish as the case and have the same reflective finish on the branding and a reflective ring around each earbud. It does look quite smart. The case does have a sync and reset button, which is always a nice welcome, and when it comes to the comfort of these earphones, I found the foam ear tips to be much easier to wear over longer periods of time, so I prefer having them on instead of the silicone ones. These have an IPX5 rating, so if you happen to get caught in the rain while on a walk or run, these should hold up just fine, but the case isn't IPX rated, so you might want to ensure it doesn't get wet. On a feature front, this comes with active noise cancelling, Bluetooth version 5.3, wireless charging, and it also has multi-device pairing. But if you do want finer control over these earphones, you can do so via the Earfun audio app. When you go into the app, you'll see the battery percentages for the earphones and case, and you can also name them something else if you'd like to. You can toggle between the normal, ambient sound, and noise cancelling modes. The ambient sound has 2 levels of transparency you can choose from, with the fully transparency mode letting in most of your surroundings, and the noise cancelling mode has 4 options for ANC to choose from. You'll have to sit with this and see which one is the most effective with your ear canals and leave it there for the best experience. It also has wind noise cancelling for when you're outdoors. It will have to work a bit harder, which can affect the overall ANC experience when this mode is on. You get a game mode to use for when you're watching any visual content or when you're gaming. You get a Earfun equalizer, which I'll speak about in the chapter about sound. You can disable all controls if you don't want any accidental inputs, and you can customize your inputs as well. By default, the left earbud is programmed with a tap once, which will decrease the volume, a tap twice will play and pause your media, a triple tap will take you to the previous track, and a long press will cycle through the noise controls. You can, however, customize any of these inputs to do a series of other controls, including just disabling it. The right earbud is programmed with a tap once for increasing volume, a tap twice for playing and pausing, a triple tap will take you to the next track, and a long press will activate your voice assistant. And like with the left bud, you can program these controls to various other things as well. Then you get the dual device connection option in case you want to leave it on or off. The Bluetooth audio quality I always leave on the aptX option because I do prefer how this sounds with this codec, or you can leave it on stable connection first, which will likely use the AAC codec instead of the aptX codec. Then you get a microphone option which lets you choose which one you want as priority. I just leave it on automatic. The voice prompt setting lets you control its volume level and language, and the find headphones feature is always a nice welcome on any earphones. You can choose which one you want to find and press play sound, and the earbud will start chirping. Then you get the manual and FAQ section and the version mentioned here, and a factory reset option and another option to delete current device. The multi-device pairing works as well as it needs to. I've been connected to my iPad and phone during some of my testing, and usually when I press play on the secondary device, it plays for maybe a second or 2 seconds and then pauses itself because the media is still playing back on my primary device. So if you do want to do that handover, you have to pause on your primary device and then play on the secondary device. But in circumstances where I was listening to media on my iPad and I got a call, it's an immediate handover. It pauses the media on the iPad and goes over to my phone. So it's a very quick transition, and then as soon as the phone call is ended, it goes back to the device you were connected to and it resumes playing the media. So it works fairly flawlessly. It's not really an issue. Then moving on to the latency of this. Well, when it comes to consuming any kind of visual media, a lot of affordable earphones normally has a huge lag with visuals until you put the gaming mode on. But if I'm being honest, there's not much of a lag with this, even with the game mode off. I mean, there is a slight lag, of course. And when you put the game mode on, it does tighten up a bit. It does get a little bit quicker. But instead of me telling you about this specific game mode, when it's on, which is on 55 milliseconds, it's got that quicker response time. Instead of going on about it, here's a quick demo to show you how it performs with games as well as with videos.
Reloading.
Game mode.
These come with 11 wool composite dynamic drivers, have a frequency response of 20 Hz all the way up to 20,000 Hz, and support codecs from SPC, AAC, aptX as well as the LC3 codec. So
Game mode.
if you do listen to higher res music, it will switch over to the aptX codec, which is bound to give you much clearer and sharper detail in your overall audio.
When it comes to its active noise cancelling, this does have 6 microphones in total, which is 3 microphones per earbud. So Earfun does claim that it can cut down up to about 43 decibels worth of noise, and I don't doubt that because it is a pretty good performer. So I have tried this out with fan motors, AC motors, and in fact I'm close to a very busy street, so it does tend to suppress a lot of those droning noises very well. But the one thing I did notice with the silicone ear tips is that when those ear tips are on, there seems to be like a higher frequency of noise that does bleed in when those ear tips are on. But when I have the foam ear tips on, it does suppress that same sort of bleed in significantly better. So I mean, I have been using this with those foam ear tips because those are definitely more comfortable and they also help with the active noise cancelling. Now, the same microphones that help with the active noise cancelling also help with the environmental noise cancellation in case you do want to make any phone calls. So if you do want to know how your voice will sound carried over to your recipient in a very busy setting, there's really only one way to show you how. So I'm calling you from the usual busy street I do all of my call tests from, just to give you a sense of how much noise there is around me and how much of noise these earphones are going to be battling. So there is of course a lot of traffic behind me. You'll see 4-wheelers, 2-wheelers, some 3-wheelers, and you might get the occasional pressure horn from a truck as well. And there is still some construction work going on behind me, which will of course never end. So I have been on the camera microphone all this time, so you get this sense of noise. And I'll switch over to the Earfun Free Pro 3 microphones right about
now. So of course this does have 6 microphones, which is 3 microphones per earbud. So I am expecting this to do reasonably well. It does have Qualcomm CVC 8.0. So I mean, there's only so much that it can do also in a very busy setting like this. No doubt this will perform better in a more controlled environment like your office or when you're at home where it's not so noisy. But expect this to perform this way if you do go out for walks or runs in such a busy setting. Now, one thing I do like to do is toggle between the ANC modes while on a call, because that does mean that it will put a further load on the environmental noise cancelling algorithm that is being utilized right now. So I'll go into the app right now, and right now I am on the noise cancelling mode, and I'll switch over to the ambient sound mode now. So just going to call out some ambient sound. Now I can hear what's going on behind me. It is on the default setting right now. So I'll switch over to the fully transparent mode, and I can hear a lot more feed in right now. I do prefer the noise cancelling over this for sure, and I'll switch over to normal now. So with the normal mode on, in fact, it's got better isolation because it's not feeding in any noise. So it is passively isolated. So that's how it will sound with normal. So it also does have, I'll switch over to noise cancelling again, and I'll switch over to the wind noise cancelling mode now. So it's on the wind noise cancelling right now, and I can hear a higher frequency coming in. So I would prefer having this off because it seems to do a better noise cancelling, as in with it off. Why is it not going off? I have to click on the ear adaptive. I'm having a bit of a glitch right now with the app. I think I am. Let me figure this out live so that okay, no, it's not cutting off. Okay, now it's gone back onto. I think the app is a little bit glitchy at times, which you've just seen, but I'm pretty sure Earfun will tackle this in some sort of software update. It does sometimes give this feeling like it's not really, keeping up with what you're doing. But anyway, it's back onto the noise cancelling mode, and there you have it. That's pretty much how this will handle carrying your voice and vocal tonality over to your recipient in this kind of setting. So do expect it to sound much better, of course, when you are in a more controlled environment. So I do hope that this demo is giving you a better understanding about these earphones, and I'll see you back at the studio.
These come with 7mm wool composite dynamic drivers, have a frequency response of 20 Hz all the way up to 20,000 Hz, and support the SPC, AAC and aptX codecs. On a volume front, I found myself listening to this a lot at about maybe 40% volume. Now when I push it up to about 60%, it can get a little too loud for me. So I would not recommend listening to this above 65 and 70% over prolonged periods of time if you intend on preserving your hearing. Now every bit of audio gear usually does thin out at lower volumes, and so does this, but surprisingly in a quiet environment, if it's really quiet and you're sort of slowing down at the end of the day, 20% volume is rounded enough. When you go below that, it's bound to lose a lot of depth, but it is also good enough at that lower volume. When it comes to its soundstage, it does exist within a bubble in your head. It does exist more or less on a horizontal plane. It does have good left and right separation with a dead center phantom channel, and more often than not, some tones do give you the illusion of coming from slightly further out of the earphones, which is very impressive for a set of wireless earphones. When it comes to its imaging, it does tighten up when you start using the aptX codec compared to the SBC and AAC. So I found myself using the aptX codec more than those because I do have a high-res source. So if you do have a high-res source, I would recommend using the aptX codec. And with this codec on, details and nuance does get a lot crisper. It is that much easier to focus in on. Now, no doubt, this is not really a set of audiophile grade earphones, but with the aptX codec, it does kind of put up a fight. It is a lot more enjoyable with general music listening if you do like to listen to the finer details in your music. Higher frequencies have an elevation, but it's tastefully tuned so as to not be aggressive. This range carries a good amount of detail and has a soft approach in its delivery compared to some earphones which tend to pierce the ear in this range. There's a certain sense of maturity in this range thanks to how Earfun has decided to tune it, and it does ensure that you can listen to your music for hours on end without experiencing listening fatigue. Percussive instruments in this range don't come at you aggressively, thankfully, and it makes me wonder if that wool composite material contributes towards how softly this range is delivered to you. Listening to A Million Dreams from The Greatest Showman, this track has a lot of energy in the upper range that sits prominently yet slightly leaned back in a relaxed manner, ensuring you hear the strings and wind instruments clearly despite this being a very dynamic track. Some people might want more prominence here, but I like it just as it is on its default tuning. When it comes to its mid frequencies, it does have quite an elevation in the upper mids and quite a recess in the lower mids, and I'm not a fan of this tuning because usually it tends to thin out a lot of vocals, but Earfun seems to have gotten a good balance. That upper mid elevation can tend to make vocals sibilant, and this can cross that threshold at times depending on what kind of recording you're listening to. But for the most part, it hasn't crossed this line too much while I've been testing these. Instrument and vocal separation is handled well when listening to the aptX codec, but will get a little muddled if you listen to the SBC or AAC codecs. I did think male vocals would sound a bit on the tinny or nasal side of things, but it somehow manages to ensure male vocals hold on to a good level of depth. Listening to Creed perform Who's Got My Back, Scott Stapp's vocals hold a terrific level of body and strength in this track. I've heard his voice thin out with tunings like this on other earphones before, but these earphones manage to carry his voice and emotion across to you with a good sense of purpose and weight. Low frequencies are no slouch. It's got a good amount of body and heft in its presentation. This range is more than certainly elevated, almost as if it wants to join in on the fun of listening to heavier music with you. If you're into heavier genres of music, you're not going to be disappointed with how this handles its lower frequencies. It's got a good amount of energy here and to a certain extent is closer to being a little too bloated for my taste. Then again, these aren't exactly tuned to be audiophile grade in their default EQ preset. This range, however, will keep any bass enthusiast smiling fluctuation from year to year. Listening to Ariana Grande perform Break Free featuring Zed, this is a very bass-focused track, or at least it sounds that way with these earphones. The bass takes over here as being the main theme over the highs and lows, but surprisingly, these don't lose too much detail in the mids and highs despite this crazy amount of bass being pushed out of these drivers. And for a set of 7mm dynamic drivers, this might be the largest sounding bass I've heard from such a small driver. Now, if you do want to play around with the sound when it comes to these earphones, Earfun has provided not 3 or 4 different presets, but a whole 30 different presets you can play around with. So I've not seen this with any other manufacturer. I mean, this number is pretty crazy, but I am not going to cover all 30 right now because this video has obviously gotten a little too long. But there are a few other tunings that I do want to talk to you about. You get a manual equalizer with 10 bands you can play with, and it has a plus minus 10 dB gain. So if you're into manual control, this is great. Then you can go into My Sound profile, which does a test which you should do late at night in a quiet space to get accurate readings. Once you do this, your audio does come alive even more so because of how it compensates for your personal hearing. They've done this well. Then you can go into the Olive signature, which is based on none other than Olive's tuning, who had a really great YouTube channel and continues to be very interested in his passion for audio. When you select the natural tuning, it has a sense of sharpening up the overall detail and presentation of your music, and I quite like how this sounds because it does add an element of clarity while controlling that bloated bass and making it tighter without making it disappear. The boosted variation of this tuning does elevate the bass and other regions, which can eat into a little detail compared to the natural setting. Then you can also head on over to the Fernanda signature. He's also a content creator with a history of audio always being his passion. You get the balanced warm tuning, which does make these sound much easier in the bass without losing lower frequencies somehow, and vocals do get a warmer tone to them with highs maintaining a good level of richness. You also get the less bass option, which does as it says, but does put emphasis on the upper mids more so than other regions. If you're into enjoying vocal tracks, this does help there and also maintains a good amount of depth for vocals. So to sum up, overall on a build front, I think Earfun has put these together very well. In fact, when I first handled the case and the earphones, they did give a sense of being at least more than twice their price, because I think a lot of earphones in the 15 or 16,000 rupee price category do have finishes like this. It is definitely very premium looking, feeling, and very executive looking as well. When it comes to its comfort, to be very honest, I had a bit of discomfort in my left ear. I do have a smaller concha in my ear, and it wasn't too comfortable. So I did play around with those winglets and ear tips as well, and only after did I spend some time figuring this out did I find a very comfortable fit, and I found the winglet that fit me correct, and those foam ear tips are very comfortable. So overall, even on a comfort front, if you do want to listen to this for prolonged periods of time, I think the foam ones will suit most people better than the silicone ones. And speaking about ear tips, I have seen a lot of brands come up with, the extra small and large, or they've come with, an extra small, and large with mediums on the earphones. But the fact that this comes with 6 different sets of ear tips and a set of foam ear tips as well is absolutely unbelievable. I think it shows the level of passion that Earfun does have for sound, because only brands that really do understand sound will give you that option to give you the absolute correct seal, whether it's for active noise cancelling or for music. So Earfun has definitely I think earned a name in the books of being one brand that really is obsessed with audio. On a feature front, it's got what it needs really. Bluetooth version 5.3 may not be the latest, but it kind of is. Bluetooth version 5.0 onwards has not really been choppy in any of my testing. It has wireless charging for convenience, and more than anything, I really do like that it's got all those different options you can choose in the app to customize it, especially on a sound front. I've not seen this level of personalization when it's come to sound. So the fact that it does that is absolutely unbelievable. When it comes to its active noise cancelling, I think it's a pretty good performer. I mean, they claim that they can cut off up to 43 decibels of noise. Now, this is obviously only droning noises. I have had people ask me about how to eliminate people who are talking. Active noise cancelling does not work that way. It is working to eliminate droning noises from motors, or a hum. When there's a big crowd, there's a hum that develops. It can cut that out, but not specific people talking, sadly. But overall, it does perform well, except for I did notice that slight upper frequency that bleeds in with the silicone ear tip. But when you use a foam ear tip, that seal is much better, and I think the ANC does work better with that, because there's a certain amount of passive noise that can come in, so that foam tip does help with this. If call quality is important to you and you've missed that chapter, you can head on back over there, because I have done a quick test in my usual setting near a busy street. So if you do want to see how your voice would carry over to your recipient, head on over there. It should give you better clarity about it. And moving on to the sound, well, I have tested this on the default setting because that's how it comes straight out of the box. And I have to say, it is a very fun sounding set of earphones. It is very bass enthusiastic. So much so, for me, it does seem a bit boomy. It does seem a bit bloated, but I think a lot of people will like the way this sounds. For me, it's more of Olive's tuning that it does work much better. Olive has done some terrific stuff generally on his YouTube channel and so on. So what he did with Earfun for the previous generation, I've heard very good things about. And in fact, I've usually found myself enjoying my music with his tuning in particular. But yeah, overall on the sound front, the fact that you've got so many options you can choose from is quite impressive, of course. But the main thing to take away from this set of earphones is that at least I feel that Earfun is very catered towards good sound. Yeah, they've got a whole bunch of features. Yeah, you might not think that, I want to have custom ANC tuning and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't have that. It's more, they lean more towards sound. And in fact, even when I reviewed the first set of earphones I reviewed last year, I did send an email to Earfun asking them if their entire team was more audio enthusiasts than just, a bunch of people trying to make a product. And it turns out that they are filled with a whole bunch of absolute audio enthusiasts, audio engineers and so on, because you can hear it through the product. There are very few products that kind of speak to you this way. And it's a very fun sounding set of earphones. And the fact that it can push out as heavy a bass, considering it's got a small dynamic driver, it's a testament. It is a testament to how much love they've put into this set of earphones. So I mean, overall, it's a very nice sounding set of earphones, great build and so on. And I would say it's terrific value for money. So anyway, coming to the money aspect of this, at the time of recording this video, this does have a maximum retail price of about 8,999 rupees. But it does have a selling price of 7,499, and you can buy it abroad as well for $79.99. But the folk at Earfun have been very kind and sent an exclusive 11% extra discount code, which I'll leave somewhere here on the screen, that you can do. So if you're buying this off of Amazon, you can put this in the coupon code and you should get a further 11% discount, which is pretty sweet of them to do. And another cool thing about them is, where most other companies give only a 12-month warranty, Earfun is one of those companies that actually gives an 18-month warranty. And the thing is, it shows that they are very confident in the product. And I have heard from a few viewers on my channel that they have had a few issues. And by a few, I've heard from 2 or 3 people. And each of these people have even said that I have written to Earfun and I've heard back from them within 24 hours, for one, and 2 is they've actually sorted out the issue. So the fact that they've got such prompt and good after sales, I'd say it says enough about the brand. It really does. So if you've not picked up a set of Earfun earphones before, consider doing so, because it is genuinely a very nice sounding set of earphones. And even for that matter, the Air Pro 3 has been one of my favorites for a long time. And this is now the next one from them that I really do like. So anyway, there you have it. I do hope that this video has been helpful and informative to you. And I do hope that I've helped you make some sort of purchase decision. If you would like to help support the channel, I'm sure you know exactly how to. But of course, thank you for tuning to Paul's POV for some sound advice.